As you can see, I've changed the drill bit and I added this piece here. This is a stop block, and if you use any type of hole saw, this is just another smaller hole saw, they'll have this fitting that's up here at the top. Now that fitting you can use to just use that Allen screw and set it for whatever depth that you want on your drill bit. Just in case you don't have a drill press and you want to set the size, or if you don't have the latch that goes on the handle, you can use one of these to set the depth guide. Just set it for whatever depth that you need it to and lock down the Allen screw. I'll show you how that operates. It's a little bit different, but I'll walk you through the process. So we're going to drill our hole, and you'll notice the plastic coming off. Now when I get almost to the bottom of the hole, then I'm going to raise this back up. I'm going to turn off the drill press. We're going to clean off our drill bit to make sure that everything is good and clean, and then we'll turn it back on, and then we'll finish just out to the base of the hole until that just barely touches. And then what I'm going to do is just run this in and out of this hole just a couple of times, just to make it a little bit smoother, because I want those bolts to fit really tight, and this will make it so that that bolt will fit right in. Now I'll show you how that bolt fits. So as you can see, I've drilled the 4 holes, and how our bolt fits is just straight down in. Now you'll notice that it's got that 1/2 inch. Now that 1/2 inch is down here where we already drilled our hole. And in that 1/2 inch is where we're going to thread this bolt into our plastic 1/2 inch. And then this top piece will slide on and off. It'll become more clear once it's all finished, and I'll show you how that is, and then it'll make a lot of sense to you. Okay, so for our next step, what we need to do is we need to cut this groove. And what this groove is for is so that this will eventually release this top piece. Now you can cut this with a regular saw if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and use my table saw. I do not recommend under any circumstances that you use a table saw for this cut unless you are extremely familiar with the table saw. You know how to operate it, and you've done a lot of woodworking or a lot of work with a table saw for this next step. I have removed the guard because it's necessary, because it's not a through cut all the way through, so it will not have a guard on the blade. Also, the blade is going to be coming through on both sides. I am going to be far enough away from the blade that I will be safe. And this cut right here is just slightly deeper than our finished bottom cut here, and that's so that our wires can feed through on the back side once we do that. And it'll also enable us to have a full lock on our coil on both sides. So that's where this cut is positioned, and the depth. So I've already set up the saw, so I'm just ready to run the next cut, and I'll show you how to do that. We're going to cut it on the whole side down, so the holes that we made, we're going to do that on the whole side down, and the back part of it is to our fence here. And now you can see that we have those 2 cuts perfectly aligned for both blocks. So both blocks will be the exact same for our testing of our coils on each side of our testing jig. Okay, so our next step is going to be to use a wooden block, which is a backer for our plastic. And I'm also using a miter gauge. And then the slot will cut all the way through, and that will back us so that we can cut our piece loose, and then this is what's going to be our clamp that's going to hold our coil in. So this will be the backer block for our coil. So you can see where our coil would go in here, and then later we will drill out for our center hole here. That will be our insert point for our screw-in part for our coil. So it'll be double locked. It'll be locked here and also into the back of the block. And then you can see where our holes are here, and that lines up so that when these are lined up, we have our little gap here for our wires to come out from the back of our coil. So I'll go ahead and cut that now. How we're going to cut that is the big nice flat surfaces straight up to the back. I've already preset the saw blade. Our brace goes against our fence, and our block goes against our fence, and all we have to do is push it straight through. And I'll show you that now. Now we'll wait until the saw blade completely stops. And then as you can see, here's our cut piece. Very smooth, very straight, everything straight. So we have our first one, and we have our second piece here. And